What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Verbal Garbage, coming at you hot and live, fresh off of Halloween. Birthday weekend for me and my father. Birthday for my nephew just passed yesterday. By the time this episode's out, he will be the owner of a brand new bidet on his 17th birthday. What a way to bring it in. But this time of year, my sister lives in Richmond, Virginia, where I'm at right now, in baby's room. For the meantime, until we get the studio back up and running, we're kind of makeshifting where we go, and we got some guest episodes. I don't have a very impressive studio space now, which is all my cool little trinkets, but we're doing what we can. Um, the Halloween weekend brings me to some interesting thoughts and questions that I'd like to ask out loud to some of my listeners. First thing is, if you are an adult who does not have a child or does not have children, what is the cutoff age for dressing up for Halloween? I was talking to some friends, and you see some pictures, the parties, and maybe it's just because I'm not a big socialite. I'm not there out on the scene of the parties with the people. But I never, it's weird too because you would think me having a birthday the day before Halloween, I was like super festive and into it. I love Halloween itself, but as far as dressing up, it's just never really been my thing. I think 2 years in a row I went as the guy from Scream, just pretty much wearing a mask on. I'm wearing a black piece of whatever clothing. So pretty minimal effort. I remember my brother used to, really get into the spirit and took some jabs for it. Specifically, one time he dressed up as fuck. It was some costume that one of my parents' friends made, or my aunt. I think it was like Tigger from Winnie the Pooh or something like that. And he got real jazzed at school for it. The laughing stock of school for that. You know how kids are. So, um, another time, my parents, we used to always host Halloween parties when we were younger. My parents would have all their friends over. Me and my brother, my sister would have a couple of our friends. And Kurt, I think, dressed as the Cowardly Lion, and me being myself, I didn't dress as anything, like an asshole. Um, but yeah, I'm just curious, like how many people are still dressing up these days, and if you have kids, obviously, we're fair game. But if you're just an adult dressing up, going out to parties, I'm not hating. Just curious. Where's the age? To me, it's like after you get out of college, 2 year grace period, perhaps, but I think that's more than enough, And this piece of shit laptop of mine driving me crazy. But yeah, the whole mischief night thing, going out and toilet paper in people's houses and just causing a ruckus. I don't know. It's just never really been my thing. And as I've gotten older, you realize what a waste of toilet paper. I hope the people are using like that shitty stuff you see in elementary schools with the little tissue wrapping around it, not my sacred little double ply Scott or Cottonelle. It's just such a waste. You remember during the whole pandemic, everyone running out of toilet paper. Well, imagine if that had corresponded with Mischief Night, and you saw the people hoarding the toilet paper were also the ones taking their kids out to go mischief shopping, if you will. So I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting. I thought about that. I was like, how long do people dress up for? Like, is it still something that's a thing, or I don't know. I'm not being bitter. I'm not criticizing. I'm just wondering out loud what's the deal with that. Um, there's just a lot of interesting things that have come up over the last week. Some news stories I definitely want to cover, whether it be Paul Pelosi with the hammer, whether it be some interesting article I just read about picking your nose and the dangerous links that has, or an NBA draft pick from the San Antonio Spurs who just got waived out of nowhere. There's an interesting story behind that. But before I get into any of that, I would like to kind of cover, touch back on the Squirrel Hunter Chronicles. My dad, who's when we grew up, gun safety was a must. We weren't allowed to have paintball guns. Like the first thing we got was like a stock of like an M1 Garand, so we could just learn how to like not aim it at other people and trigger discipline, all that kind of stuff. But in that same breath, it's kind of funny because we would be trained on all this, and then we'd like go outside, and my dad would just be casually out there drinking a coffee, eating a little sweet trinket, and then he'd have his little rifle right by his side. Our neighborhood was a hotbed for squirrels, and I think I've talked about on here before how the Jersey squirrels and the Florida squirrels are not the same thing. Florida squirrels are kind of peaceful. You know, they're nice. They mind their own business. They're enjoying the nature, finding an acorn here or there. And maybe it's because the New Jersey squirrels are so stubborn and so spoiled with the amount of acorns they're given every year during the fall season. Whereas in Florida, these guys are really gonna have to work for a nut or two, and it's just not as easy circumstances. Those Florida squirrels really got to work for a nut. So I'm sitting here talking to my sister and stuff the other day because it's always been a funny joke in the family about my dad and the squirrels, and then me and my brother coming up after him, the next generation of squirrel hunters. So my dad and my mom were talking the other day, and we were like kind of wondering how it all started with the squirrel hunting out back. Because when we lived in New Jersey, for those of you who didn't know, like we had a pretty nice backyard as far as size, covered in trees. We had a fence behind us that led to a big like parking lot for a big like dental office, but it was a huge, huge parking lot. So when we would have like snowstorms or when it was the weekends, we would have friends over to go out back and then go in this parking lot to play like kickball or baseball or play home run derby. Just something I always see and get kind of frustrated on is the generation nowadays is so much more couch prone, and they want to sit on their phones and play on their tablets and look at their Instagram and their Twitter and Snapchat all day. When we were growing up, like all we knew was picking up the house phone and literally calling our friends and say, "Hey, you want to play football or you want to have a home run derby?" Or and we did all kinds of pitching contests, furthest throw, the football. I mean, you name it, we did it. Got a little sidetracked there, but that whole backyard was just a fertile ground for these little tree rats, as my dad would call them, these little squirrels. So I remember my dad was saying the other night that when I think my sister Jill was born, they had our house in New Jersey, and my mom had wanted to put up a bird feeder. And when she installed the bird feeder, she started noticing an influx of these little varmints, if you will. So the varmints would come, and mother and father would stew and wonder what the suggestion would be and what the solution would be. And I remember my mom went to my dad. This is all secondhand account. Obviously, I wasn't born yet, but my mom said, "Well, we got this bird feeder, and now the squirrels won't stop. And what are we gonna do?" And my dad told us that he looked at my mom dead in the eyes and he said, "You realize this means war, right?" And that was the beginning of a long running tally of dead squirrels in the kitchen. For some of my buddies growing up, they would come over, like Maddie specifically, my friend Maddie Dolan. He would come over and like it was funny because he knew all about the list, but then we would have other friends from like middle school or high school. They would go to our kitchen, be washing our hands, like, "What is that list?" Because just imagine like you'd be in there, you're in the kitchen, you're washing your hands, and like you look to the left or you look to the right, looking for a hand towel. And my dad had the man, it's been so long since you would do the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then draw a line to see. I can't even remember what those are called, tallies. But my dad had a running list of tallies for just squirrel bodies, and I think he wrote on the top squirrel list or squirrel count. So every time he would get a squirrel, he would just go on there and jot it down. And I just have so many funny memories from this because, like, I'm sure I told the story again, but now we're talking squirrel hunter. We gotta go stay thematic, if you will. Um, so my dad had like this hilarious thing where we'd just be sitting around, and if he saw a noise, or I mean, heard a noise or saw a rustling in the trees from just sitting on the couch, he would just go scream like, "Get the gun!" Because we had our front closet, where he would kept and these are just for you guys. These aren't AR-15s. We had like little pellet guns or BB guns, and he had different types of pellets depending on the size of the varmint or the intent of destruction we wanted to inflict upon said varmint. Um, but yeah, we would tell us to grab the gun, and then we would go to get the pellets, and we'd either be three different medicine bottles with different type of pellets. So we get that, we load it in for him. He, did a little pump, and then we get the business. So one time, my brother Kurt had a little bonfire outside with a bunch of friends. It's a fall from grace. He used to have so many friends, and nowadays he's just struggling. Maybe he's got three or four. I'm not really sure, but so anyways, the he had like a bonfire out back, and this was back in New Jersey in like the fall or the winter time where it gets cold at night. You have the bonfire, you got the jackets out, you got the marshmallows, and him and all his friends had marshmallows and stuff. But the party ended, and Kurt just went inside. My mom and I went the next morning to clean up, and we were greeted by a sweet little raccoon baring his teeth for all of us to see. So, you know, we had to sick the squirrel hunter on him, so we called Daddy O in to work is magic, and he put together a little game plan, and let's just say that that raccoon didn't have the best last day of his life on Earth. But that's it. And I hope all you animal lovers like me out there aren't getting too offended by these stories because these squirrels, just to give you an idea, like they would come into our house, they would chew up our wires, they would one of them got stuck on our heater, like they would eat our trash, eat our basil, eat our plants, just all kinds of trouble that they would cause. So we didn't like having to do this, but as the years went further and Kurt and I got older, we started learning how to take these matters into our own hands, and we kept the tradition in the family and created our own little list. And be I'd be lying if I didn't say a little times we got overzealous to add to the list, and sometimes a chipmunk would pay the price. Sometimes at the hands of a young shooter named Young Buck, that a, a bird might lose his life. You never know. And we're kind of like these basketball and football players on a contract here with that squirrel list. We would be measlying around, moseying around, and then once we saw Dad getting some numbers, we'd really turn into gear, and we would get our hunting shoes on, our 100 feet quacking, and just get rolling. So yeah, really good times with that. Just I remember one time my dad had like his two best friends over. They were from California, and they were in the backyard, and we wake up, we're having a beautiful Jersey breakfast with the fresh fruit, the bagels, the cream cheese, the eggs, the toast, like all the sweet spread. And our breakfast was a little different this morning because the bagels were served with a side of pellets, and the main course was the BB guns because we were looking to get some squirrel tail and fry it up. And it's funny because we never ate squirrel growing up. I think my dad did once, when my grandfather had taken one out, but I never tried squirrel. And for the amount that I've harvested and taken out, and same with my brother, we definitely should have tried them just to see what kind of meat we were curating. But yeah, no, it was our neighbors in our neighborhood would have problems with squirrels. They knew just the man to contact. My dad would have like coffee mugs that would say like wanted, and it would show a picture of a squirrel. I mean, we were all in. I'm sure I've told the story before, but we, any kind of varmint, a geese or a goose, excuse me, a squirrel, a pigeon, any of that kind of stuff, rats. And my dad just had no time, no patience for them. So I remember one time we were a family outing to the movies, a little AMC 8. It'll be me, my brother, my sister, my two parents. And I remember we were in the theaters for this cartoon movie or something. I can't remember. Maybe it was that Frankie Muniz movie. What was that called? Um, with Paul Giamatti. Oh my God. Let's think it out loud here. No Google. He wrote a little script in school, and then Paul Giamatti stole the script and pretty much sold it to make a movie out of it. But then Frankie Muniz was getting the shit end of the deal, and his little sidekick Amanda Bynes was there to help him out. All right, we tried. The other shitty thing about this studio setup here is the internet up here is real, real rough, guys. So when I want to get the iPad out for some current events, I don't have that luxury. So just bear with me. I'm gonna type Frankie Muniz. What's that guy's name? Paul Giamatti. Big Fat Liar. Wow. So I think we're in the theaters to see Big Fat Liar, actually, believe it or not. And there was a little preview, as you guys know, little trailers for the movies coming out, and there was one where I was just like showing all the different little cartoon characters, and I went into a field and it showed like a rabbit under grass, and then he stuck his head up real quick, and the whole theater was obviously quiet. My dad just went, wham! Just like an echoing of shooting noise. Rabbits I wouldn't really classify as varmints, and now full circle, my one of my older sisters, Jenny, she has a rabbit now, and pretty much her and her husband Bob, they got married and have this beautiful house. And when they got married, Bob had told me, Bob is my brother-in-law, he's married to my sister Jenny. He told me that when they got the house, the one thing Jenny really wanted was like a little addition added on to the house. And it's a beautiful little room where she could have like, her cocktails, her wine, a TV, everything she needs, or smoke a little weed pens over there. But now they end up getting two rabbits, so the whole thing had turned into like I call it the bunny penthouse or the bunny suite. because if Bob's like, this $35,000 room now is just like that's it literally cost him 35 grand to do the addition to the house. And now it's housing rabbits. So pretty hilarious. And like I said, I wouldn't really classify rabbits as varmints, but we're at a theater. Maybe my dad was going for a quick little chuckle, whatever the case may be. So yeah, we got to the Squirrel Hunter Chronicles. We got to the Halloween cutoff. It's a really weird story. I'm gonna Google it right now, but for those of you who don't know, that NBA season is just about in full swing now. We're about, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 games in. Um, yeah, it's a rough story. So the Spurs had just released a gentleman who was known to be exposing himself at such a young age with so much money and such a giant sword. You got to imagine, like, why are you doing this? I don't really want to say his Josh Primo. Primo Hoagie, shout out to you. No relation. He is believed to expose himself to the Spurs consulting psychologist Dr. Hillary Cauthen, amongst other women. He was the 12th overall pick in the 2021 NBA draft, and now he's citing his mental health for part of the reason. Um, Interesting play there. The time we're living in now, mental health has definitely become a large stigma, a hot button topic. With I was talking to a gentleman the other day about, like, on here that's going to be airing soon, about anxiety. Like, it's such a common phrase and a common issue now. And like, even myself, I think I have some form that I struggle with. But like, what is anxiety? Like, and it's kind of a dicey subject with like the emotional support animals and such. Like, speaking of squirrels, I've seen squirrels on planes with people before, and it's like, I mean, I guess I can't speak for other people, but I just thought this was a very weird report. Supposedly Primo had exposed himself to multiple women. Um, just the sad, like, anytime you see these athletes that are getting paid so much money to play a game and something silly like this comes up, it's a shame. He's 19 years old, second year player. Just a shame. Um, Staying on sports, we got the Phillies, Eagles, both hot. Phillies World Series tied 1-1. By the time you hear this, Game 3 will probably have already happened. Postponed from Monday night, the Halloween night. Just Philly fans are probably going to be going fucking ape shit. Kind of sucks for them. They didn't announce till I think like 6:30, 6:45 last night that they were postponing the game. So I'm sure you had people that called off work and stuff that were out there tailgating all day, just trying to get greasy and rowdy, and just kind of came to an end. So um, I don't know. I mean, I could go into a couple stories. I definitely wanted to get this one in here just because it kind of applies to me in a former episode I talked about. Um, there's this report out there that I was just hearing that now that there's a link that a study showed with, I think it was done in rats. I'm pulling up the article right now, guys. Bear with me, like I said, with this spotty internet up here. But there's a mouse study, and this is from ScienceAlert.com. There's a mouse study suggesting a surprising link between nose picking and Alzheimer. If this story is remotely true, your boy is fucked. I just turned 31. I might get Alzheimer's by the time I'm 33 or 34 if this is at all true. I've made it very common in public knowledge that I am a serial nose picker. I It's not necessarily boogers and the pots of gold that I'm digging for. People don't really understand. I got this, like, I mean, I can do it live on air. I got this. I got this little on my left nostril. All right, listeners at home, I want you to take your left finger, your index finger, stick it up your left nostril, and you're gonna feel just a normal nose, right? I got this like crust towards the back thing, and it's like this little like ball of like it's a crustation, and I'm just trying to scrape that out and get rid of it. It's I see Murphy's Falls going in the background. It's a real problem, and so I'll pull up this article and kind of read a little bit about it. But when I saw this, I was extremely alarmed. Whether it's car rides, at home, in the shower, on the Peloton, your boy picks his nose. I'm not gonna. This is one thing some people would say embarrassing. No, I'm not the type, like, I don't pick my nose and just like stick boogers on the couch. So, like, what I'll do, and I'm sure I've told this on my little sanitary nose cleaning episode. Pretty much, if I'm in the car, start digging, looking for some scrapers and some crustaceans, some Parmesan cheese nuggets up there, and pretty much I'll scrape it and I'll put it on like one designated knuckle. So we'll have the booger knuckle, right? So let's say, for instance, we're doing the left index booger knuckle. I get to about 3 to 4 individual prizes on that finger, and I'll go in the kitchen, or if I'm in the car, I always have a pre-set aside napkins, paper towels, tissues, all that good stuff in the glove compartment or in the center console. I'll grab that, rip it up to conserve them, get it on the area of focus, wrap it up in a ball, get another one to reinforce it, and then I'll start hand sanitizing if I'm home. I go right to the sink, I wash it off, I clean the sink afterwards. I mean, I take my precautions, but no, definitely concerning. A new study has revealed a tenuous but plausible link between picking your nose and increasing the risk of developing dementia. Wah, wah, wah. In cases where picking at your nose damages internal issues, critical species of bacteria have a clearer path to the brain, which responds to their presence in ways that resemble signs of Alzheimer's disease. So, me and my brother and my friends, running joke, always talking about Fred's brain. I just have this humongous brain that's like, I think I always have headaches, and I think I lost my hair at an early age because my brain is just so big and it's like trying to burst through my skull. And now that I think about it, it's just more room for error. All these years I've been picking my nose and it's just going right to that little brain stem of mine. And I guess maybe the boogers were like protein for the last couple of years, and I would pick the nose and it would just kind of like flare my brain up and make it really big. But now it's all turning into bacteria, and now we could start seeing a withering process between me and that. So keep listening if you notice some troubling signs ahead. I think we know the link. Everyone was talking about how smoking pot kills your brain cells. Nope, picking your nose is gonna do me. And so, I need your prayers. Thank you so much. There are plenty of caveats here, not least that so far the supporting research is based on mice rather than humans. So let's take a step back. If the study were being correlated to my brother, maybe this would make more sense because his brain more, resembles that of a mice, that of a mouse. Mine is a little bit larger, more. We can equate it to like a chimpanzee or a dolphin if we would like to talk animals. So, a team of researchers led by scientists from Griffith University in Australia. They're not American. No, I'm just kidding. Ran tests with bacteria called Chlamydia pneumoniae, which can infect humans and cause pneumonia. The bacteria has also been discovered in the majority of human brains affected by late onset dementia. It was demonstrated that in the mice, the bacteria could travel up the olfactory nerve, joining the nasal cavity and the brain. What's more, when there was damage to the nasal epithelium, which is the thin tissue along the roof of the nasal cavity, the nerve infection got worse. Okay, so it's one of those things, you start reading it, you just get a little more uneasy as you're reading it. I think that's going to do it with that article. I think, really love to say I would love to stop picking my nose. Some things are just not doable, and that would be that. So yeah, last current event story I'll get to. Won't get too crazy, but Elon Musk obviously getting a hold of Twitter and making mass firings and going nuts, and then you got the Paul Pelosi story. Very very strange what's coming out on that. I'm not going to get too into that, but if you haven't heard about it yet, look up Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House. Her husband was quote unquote attacked. Um, Weird story. There's some hammers, there's some underwear, there's some glass broken from the inside, not the outside, not indicating forced entry from the outside, but you got heightened security with the level where you're at in the political landscape. And am I allowed to ask questions? Am I allowed to be a little skeptical? I believe I am. So that'll be that. Ended out with the Philly talk, I guess, a little bit. Got the Phillies in the World Series tonight, game 3, game 4, game 5, all going to be at home the rest of the week. And then we're going, I think, Friday and Saturday because now, unfortunately, we were so excited when we saw the schedule Thursday night. No Phillies. I mean, the Phillies were off that night. It was a travel day. That was the Thursday. The Eagles were playing Thursday night football. Only one game a year on Thursday night football for most teams. Now we got the Eagles and the Phillies going head to head. So we're gonna have 2 TVs going. If you're a Philly fan, I expect you to have both your TVs going. Granted, regular season football against a bad team versus a World Series game. Hey, the Eagles are undefeated, baby. We're following an undefeated season, so I've always been praised and known for my DJ skills when it comes to TVs. The minute a game goes to commercial, I'm on to it. Something else, and a lot of times the minute I flip, there's a high intensity play going on, whether it's MMA fights or football or basketball or Seinfeld episode at the best moment. Yeah, I remember one time specifically. It's back in New Jersey, me and three of my buddies. And shout out to Tort if you're listening. Tort. Tort. Um, Me, him, and a couple of our buddies were just sitting in my room. We were fucking stoned to the gills, just watching TV. And I'm always, like the music, everything. I like to be the DJ. And we were just watching TV. I think it was sports and Seinfeld or whatever the case may be. And we were just silent watching TV all baked. And then, like, out of nowhere, he just says, like, dude, I just got to say, like, your DJing has been incredible. Like, there hasn't been 1 minute of commercials. And ever since then, I've always taken it like, during Eagles games, we watch it with super fans. Shout out Carol G. And anytime the Eagles are on, I'll grab the remote and switch it to another game. Oh my god! But little does she know, like the commercials when there's a full slate of games going on, what are we doing? So I'll switch it right away. Get to see a couple plays in another game and flip it right back. I'm not missing anything. Which brings me to the Eagles Phillies game. All Philly fans, in my opinion, should definitely have the double TV setup going. You got the Phillies on one, the Eagles on the other. You can make your argument which is prioritizing the volume or the bigger TV. Me personally, I'm going to prioritize the Phillies, no doubt. Have them on the bigger TV, have them with the volume. But if there's a commercial or anything like that, they get muted. Eagles game gets the volume, and a little insider trick for you those out there: have the right TV muted, right at about a volume 20 to 30, let's say. It's like I'm doing a Peloton warm up. Cadence 80 to 100, resistance 20 to 40. But yeah, you put that one on, and then you just toggle the mute buttons back and forth so you constantly have action. And there's a big night of sports like that. You really can't afford to be missing any little thing like that. So my sister just got home, so excuse the dog barking for the last little bit of the podcast. But yeah, let's go Birds, go Phils. Hopefully we're bringing a championship back. Next time I have a solo episode here, we'll be talking about World Series champion Philadelphia Phillies. If not, hey, we made it. Got some cool Phillies gear out of it. You see the 2022 World Series with the P. I think this is pretty dope. Love you, Mom. Thanks for the gift. I think that kind of covers it. I just definitely want to start doing a little more current events like this and just start riffing. And appreciate you guys who are still listening, being patient with me, and for all my new listeners, keep the content coming, despite some of the circumstances I've just had to face. It's going to make me stronger. It's going to make me better in the long run. So thank you guys for your continued support. For all my Florida peeps, be back, I think November 9th or 10th. Get back to working for my Snap-on customers. Get back to golfing. Hopefully get back to doing some jiu-jitsu. Try to just get back to a little bit of normal life. So thank you all for listening. Love you guys. Verbal Garbage out.